Hi there, Dr. Christina, the Picky PT, and I want to tell you about how to be picky about your core strengthening after having a baby. I've had 2 babies myself, and so I know what it's like to have your abdominal wall stretched out and then trying to get it back, not just for appearances, but for stabilizing your spine. A little bit of personal story about me. I grew up as a gymnast, a competitive gymnast, and so I blame my chronic back pain on the fact that I was always doing my finish stance and doing a lot of backward movements. So when you look at how I typically prefer to stand, I stand with my back really arched, all right, or what we would call in the field lordosis. So I do a lot of core work to prevent back pain because otherwise I'm at high risk of having it. Now, when I had my second son, what I experienced was he actually stretched out one side of my abdominal wall way more than the other side. My stomach was literally slanted the entire time I was pregnant because he was just kind of kicking and moving way over here and not moving as much over here. And after having him, I could look down and I still had this appearance of my abdominal wall being stuck out on my left side and cinched down on my right. So I had to really focus on not only abdominal strengthening to bring everything back together to prevent things like diastasis recti and prevent back pain. I also had to really focus on the idea that your abdomen is not just one solid muscle, okay? It's actually 4 layers of muscle, and even within those 4 layers, you have 2 sides, okay? So you have one side of your rectus abdominis, the other side of your rectus abdominis. You have 2 sides of your obliques, both external and internal, and you have your transverse abdominis that does cross over everything. Think of it kind of like a corset, but I had to really focus on strengthening one side of my abdomen way more than the other side to bring that diagonal abdomen back to being even again, all right? So it's been a journey. I had him about 4 years ago, and when I fall off of doing my exercises as much, I have to work to get back into it, and it can be tough, but it's worth it to prevent pain as I'm lifting them, as I'm playing with them, as I'm doing my job, as I'm walking, running, doing all the things that I want to be able to do, and I don't want to feel like I'm trapped in a body that's aging, right? I want to feel good in my body. So today I'm going to talk to you about different core exercises that you can do after having a baby or just in general to help with back and hip pain. And we're going to use different equipments to do that. First off, we're going to use a foam roller and a TheraBand to resist us as we do these first exercises. So if you like to learn more about how to do exercise properly, how to be picky about it, and make sure you get the best results, then make sure to subscribe, like, and share this channel so you can always be up on the latest video. And you can also reach out to me directly and let me know what topics you'd like me to talk about. So this first exercise, like I said, we're going to specifically go over exercises that you can use props and resistance at the same time to work on your deep core strength. And remember, the important thing to remember when you're working on your deep core is that you are focusing on pulling in, not bulging out, okay? That is the most important rule when you're core strengthening, all right? No matter what position you're in, if you're on your back, if you're on all fours, if you're standing, if you're sitting, if you're working on core, you should be pulling in, not pushing out. All right, so like I said, if you use a prop like a foam roller underneath your bottom, it helps to put you already in a curved spine position, which then can make it easier to pull in. And then if you want to add resistance to that, you can use a TheraBand to help with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this TheraBand around our back about, shoulder blade height. I'm gonna hook my thumbs in and I'm gonna straighten my elbows. When I push forward with my arms on my back, I'm gonna be pulling into my core at the same time, all right? This is not only a good core exercise, this is a good shoulder exercise. So I'm gonna lay on my back. I'm going to place the foam roller underneath my bottom, and I'm going to allow my spine to fall into that C curve because I've got my legs raised up. I'm going to then punch up to the ceiling, pulling my core in as I do so. So this would be level 1 of this exercise, pulling in with that core as you punch up. Notice that I'm not punching up with my shoulders hiking. I'm punching up with my shoulders staying down away from my ears. And now what I'm gonna do is level 2, I'm gonna tap one leg down while holding my core in. So as I punch up, I'm gonna tap one leg down. As I punch up, I'm gonna tap one leg down. There we go. I'm gonna tap up, one leg down, punch up, one leg down. Notice as I'm tapping down, I'm not letting my back arch, okay? I'm keeping my core pulled in as I tap down. So my core has to stay pulled in, and the TheraBand resistance, while making it harder, should also make it a little bit easier to do this as well. If you're doing this properly, you're gonna feel a real burn in your core. One more tip as you're doing this, you don't wanna have your neck arching because that's gonna stimulate the rest of your spinal extensor muscles to arch your back. So keep your neck rounded with the rest of your body, doing like a chin tuck where you pull your chin directly in towards the ground. Okay, so the next exercise we're gonna use a foam roller and a TheraBand again with to work on our deep core. What we did before is we punched forward with the TheraBand. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull down with the TheraBand as we're kicking the legs out. So think of the pulling down as almost like you're crunching, okay? You're pulling your core in as you crunch and pull down. And as you saw in the previous exercise, my focus is pulling my core in and keeping it in as I kick my legs down, all right? So laying on my back with the foam roller underneath my bottom, so that way it puts me in a nice little C curve in my spine, okay? And then I'm gonna grab onto the TheraBand overhead. Thank you, lovely assistant. And level 1 of this exercise would be pulling down, using my core, pulling in, okay, as I do this. All right, level 2 would be kicking or tapping one leg down as I pull down, okay? The pulling down should help me to pull my core in rather than bulging out. See how that bulge looks, all right? Instead, we wanna be pulling in, all right? So it should help, but it's also gonna add to that difficulty. So this is a great variation of this exercise. And like I said, the foam roller makes it easier because if we didn't have the foam roller, and you're trying to do the same exercise to tap down, notice that I don't have the assistance of the foam roller to keep my spine in a C curve. Now I'm just relying on my own core strength to do that. So just like most of our exercises, we're gonna start with 2 sets of 10, build to 3 sets of 10 if after the first 2 sets you feel like, oh, I could do another one. And then if that's still easy, you can build the reps that you're doing within each set. So 2 of 15 or 2 of 20, move on to 3 of 15 or 3 of 20. And when you can do all of those sets and reps in one row, you don't need to break it all, it's time to get rid of the foam roller or it's time to increase the resistance of the TheraBand. Okay, so the last exercise we're gonna do with a foam roller and with a TheraBand for your deep core strengthening is going to be a diagonal pull with that TheraBand, okay? So we've done where we punched it forward, we've done where we pulled it down, and now we're gonna do a diagonal pull on that TheraBand, all right? Now, you may think, oh, well, how is that gonna help the core? Because if you're diagonally pulling, like, wouldn't that make you wanna arch your back like this? Well, yes, if you were compensating, if you were not doing it properly, but this is a good challenge because you should be able to use your shoulder blades and use your back muscles, but also pull your core in at the same time. This is a very important skill to have, to be able to use your back muscles and your core at the same time instead of letting your back muscles take over for your core. So we're gonna lay on our back again with the foam roller underneath our bottom. So that way it helps us to make that C curve that we've been talking about in the spine. We're gonna hold the TheraBand up at shoulder height with our legs held up at about 90 degrees. And then we're gonna pull out in a diagonal as we pull our core in towards our spine, down towards the floor, okay? Notice that as I'm doing this, I'm not letting my shoulder come up to my ear. I'm keeping my shoulders down away from my ear as I do this. And I'm really thinking about using my shoulder blades, squeezing those to do that diagonal pull. Now, that's level 1. Level 2 would be adding in that kick or tap down that we've been doing for the other exercises. So tap down is going to be easier than kick out because it's a shorter lever arm. So we're going to tap down as we pull out, tap down as we pull out, tap down as we pull out, tap down as we pull out. This is really using my core because I'm having to pull my core in against my leg lengthening away from my core and also against my shoulder blades extending. So this is a great challenge for using your back muscles at the same time as using your core. So pull in on that core, pull in on that core, and the foam roller being underneath my bottom helps me to hold that C curve a little bit easier, because without the foam roller I'd be tapping down and I'd have to be holding my core in, but I have nothing helping me to hold that C curve or hold my core in on my spine. Try out these 3 exercises. These are very, very, very progressed and challenging core exercises. If you cannot do them without bulging your abdomen out and you cannot hold in as you do them, then we need to start at a much more basic level. I have other videos that go over more basic core exercises that can make it easier, or I'm gonna share some more in the future that might be a better position for you if laying on your back is too hard. Possibly do core strengthening in kneeling, or possibly do it in all fours position, which might be easier for you to practice the pulling in at first. But these are exercises that you can work towards if you want more of a challenge and you have the equipment that you need to do these. So remember, if you're not getting improvement in your core strength, in your diastasis recti, in your back pain with these exercises, then make sure to contact a neuromuscular expert, a physical therapist like myself, who can create a personalized program for you and make sure you're doing these things absolutely correctly.